have just two issues that I'd like Bob Dean and Jonathan Luscomb to come up and address. Basically, we're going to talk about two things. One is that the state of Florida, and this is why Commissioner LaMarca is here, and Romney Rogers was here. We need to get the city of Fort Lauderdale to do things that the Marine Advisory Board is recommending on two big things. One is the Las Olas development, of which Romney spoke briefly, and the second one is there's a statewide seagrass mitigation issue, but we're being killed by Broward County's over regulations, which are only, I think, 2 counties in the state of Florida require things that are making it impossible to dredge. And Jonathan's going to explain maybe that one, and Bob's going to do an overview of the kind of industry issues.
Good morning. I'm Bob Dean. Margaret asked me to speak to you about a little bit about the Las Olas Marina development that the Marine Advisory Board, that the Marine Advisory Board is presently promoting. This all started actually about, from what I understand, about almost 10 years ago, where it was recommended that the Las Olas Marina be dredged out. It was the parking lot, the upland parking lot is actually is filled. And they built a parking lot there and a marina. And about 10 years ago, it was discussed about dredging that parking lot back out and expanding the marina. A developer came in, it was a development plan, there was a lot of lawsuits that ensued, and nothing could be done until just recently. And now it's back on the table to redevelop the Las Olas Marina. The plans for it are pretty exciting because what's been proposed by the Marine Advisory Board to the City Commission is that the docks that are put in be lineal docks. They're not going to be finger pier type docks. They're going to be lineal slips so that you can basically dock boats behind each other and you don't have to worry about how big the boat is. And it literally triples the amount of revenue that the marina can generate. But the biggest aspect of this marina is going to be the fact that it gets the big boats in and it dovetails very well with the boat show. It's like a no-brainer, as Romney Rogers said. This is a no-brainer. But you got to remember that we're dealing with government here. And what I really wanted to talk to you about is the Marine Advisory Board and the structure of the city of Fort Lauderdale and the government that we have and what we have to deal with and what you all are going to have to deal with if this is going to be a successful project. How many of you know how the city of Fort Lauderdale government works? How many?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Well, I got a real learning curve on this a couple of years ago. I had no idea. And the more I learned, the more I realized just how precarious all of us are and dependent on our government to do things for us. There's 5 city commissioners. 4 of them are in districts, and then there's a mayor that's elected. That's it. That's our elected body that we elect. The rest of the operation is a city manager. It's sort of like a corporation. The city manager calls the shots, and all of the staff basically pull the strings. If staff decides they don't like a project, it's over. It's done. It's never going to happen. Not your elected officials, staff. And therein lies the rub. For us, we're very, very lucky. We've got a Marine Advisory, the Marine Advisory Board works with the city staff in the parks and recreation and marinas, and they are phenomenal. The city of Fort Lauderdale is extremely lucky to have the people that they have in there. And a lot of them are new people. That said, where we go is that we've got a Marine Advisory Board. The Marine Advisory Board is 15 members. Each city commissioner appoints 3 people that they feel can give them advice about the marine industry and how it relates to the city of Fort Lauderdale. But that does not mean they're going to follow the recommendations of the board. The board makes the recommendations, the city commission still does whatever they want to do. And remember that their decision-making process is based upon who makes the loudest noise. So if there's a constituent that says, you know what, I really like the Las Olas parking lot, I like the trees, we need to have trees and we need parking on the beach, and they're the loudest noise being made, guess what? That commissioner's not voting for a marina. they're going to vote for a parking lot. And that's where we come in, where we have to get your support. As the Marine Advisory Board, the 15 members meet once a month, and we discuss marine problems. Most of our time is spent, believe it or not, dealing with boat lifts and making recommendations to the City Commission on what to do with, let's say somebody's trying to get a variance, things like that. The city docks were a huge project that was pushed by the Marine Advisory Board, and it took them 10 years to get that pushed through. What I'm finding out right now about this marina and about the situation we're dealing with in Fort Lauderdale is mind-numbing. Find the Florida Inland Navigation District. It took them 5 years to get permits to dredge from 17th Street up to the Sunrise Boulevard in the intercoastal waterway to deepen it. 5 years to get permits. That's obscene. I mean, you come up with an idea, you get horsepower behind it, and you can't do it. The aspects of this that are so important to us in the city is that if we don't have the draft for the big boats, like Duke has already recognized this in Dania Beach. They know you gotta have the draft. It doesn't matter if you have a marina. If there's no water, you're not gonna get the boat there. It's over. And we know that everything is evolving towards bigger boats. Now this goes back a number of years ago, but I'm going to guess right now that probably in the world there's somewhere around 5,500 boats over 100 feet in length. I can remember in 1988 looking at one of the first power and motor yacht articles, and the world's largest 100 yachts started at like 88 feet. Now it starts at like 250 feet. Obviously, Palm Beach recognizes the marina aspect of things. Miami now is recognizing the marina aspect of things. And what they're doing is they're proposing mega yacht marinas. We've got to be ahead of the curve. I don't think it is a no-brainer. We have to be ahead of the curve. 3 weeks ago, I had one of the city commissioners for the city of Fort Lauderdale tell me, we're not going to have a marina for 15 years. That's someone who's going to be voting that's going to basically impact us, and they've already said it isn't going to happen for 15 years. We cannot accept that. And someone else isn't going to do it for you. You're going to have to do it yourself. That means all of these commissioners have general meetings. They have what they call basically almost like a little town meeting once a month. The 4 of the commissioners have them once a month. Find out where those commissioners, the 2 of them, Mr. Rogers and Charlotte Rostrom, have them in the up in the conference room at the City Hall.
8th floor.
8th floor. And they usually start about 5:30. You got to go to these things. You got to make noise. If you don't make noise, some condo commando is going to tell you, you know what, really we don't need to have boats in the city of Fort Lauderdale. And it's over. It's done. It's dead. That quick. Right now, there is a plan that just got passed. I shouldn't say passed. There is a plan that's on the board called the Sasaki Plan for the development of the beach. This has been in process for years now. And the City Commission just voted to retain the Sasaki group to implement this plan. And the next phase that we are now entering is going to be whether if Sasaki does not like the Las Olas Marina, it's over again. These are the hurdles that all of us have to deal with. And the Marine Advisory Board is 100% behind this marina. And all of you in this room, I know, are 100% behind this marina. But the bottom line is, if you don't start badgering our politicians and making sure that if they don't do the right thing, they're going to hurt us, it's not going to happen. One of the things that we're dealing with right now is that the city is also, and Jonathan's going to talk at length about this, about the seagrass issue. Nothing is easy anymore. And the more layers of bureaucracy that we have to deal with, the more difficult things get, the more expensive things get. Something simple like getting a permit, all of a sudden you're spending literally millions of dollars with lobbyists, with surveys and specialists, and I mean, You never even did the project and you've already spent $1 million. That's the things that we have to deal with as business people every day. And that's what the government is imposing on us. Right now, there's only 2 counties in the state of Florida that have a county bureaucracy that oversees the Seagrass. That's Miami-Dade County and Broward County. No other county has that. Interesting, isn't it? Why do we need that?
We don't.
We don't. But nobody knows that, so no one ever talks about it. And remember, it's a bureaucrat that's making the decisions, not an elected official. It's a bureaucrat who's telling us, oh no, you can't do that because there's grass there. Or you need to mitigate it at some ungodly amount per acre. And you have to keep it in Broward County. And if there's nowhere to mitigate it in Broward County, then guess what? You can't build the marina there. There is a move afoot, and as I said, Jonathan's going to talk about these things, which are extremely important, and MISF is greatly involved with it, to find ways of having mitigation in other areas of the state, and that way open that up a little bit. But the point I'm trying to get to the bottom of right now is we need to be active with our city and county governments. We need to be heard. You can't sit out there and say, oh, they're doing it for us. You can't do that anymore. This army of one doesn't work anymore. And everybody needs to pull together on this. There is no real comprehensive plan, basically, for the development of the marine industry. When you think about it, what is the plan? What are we asking our politicians to do for us? We just say, hey, we need help. You have to have specifics. You have to tell them, do that. That's what we want. This is what we'll benefit from. This marina is one of those things we need to tell them to do. Any questions about the marina and what's going on?
How many of the commissioners are as far as we know, Romney's with us, but how many other commissioners are somewhat interested with the project?
There's no way of really knowing. I mean, let's face it, it's sort of like a card game. They're never going to show you their cards until they go to play them. And that's the problem. And it goes back to the idea of making yourself heard. If they know that there's enough people watching and there's enough people making noise, then they're going to go ahead and vote the card the way we want it.
Yeah.
But if they don't think anyone's watching and someone else has their ear, they're going to vote it that way. Like I said, I've had one commissioner tell me point blank, this marina is not happening for 15 years. I've heard rumors of other commissioners saying, yeah, we really don't need to get into that right now. We've got our plate full with Bahia Mar and with the Hall of Fame development. You know, we're not going to worry about that.
I'm sure Charlotte's going to make sure that we don't get it.
I won't comment on it.
What I'd like to tell you is this is your advisory board member, as are a few others who were elected by you, and Bob is doing one heck of a job. I really want to tell you, I appreciate it so much. Jonathan is going to just briefly touch on the fact that the marine industry, they have paid lobbyists, in Tallahassee, and what they're talking about is banking property because there's no place to put them. But I'm going to have Jonathan explain to Commissioner LaMarca what problems the county has, that the city of Fort Lauderdale, until we had a meeting, was not smart enough to say, I said, get your lobbyists, have the city of Fort Lauderdale ask the county. So that's what they voted to do, to ask you to help them. But I'd like you to understand the issue from City of Fort Lauderdale staff. Jonathan.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Luscomb. I'm the Marine Facilities Supervisor, and I'll just give you a quick little bit of history behind the dredging project that we've been working on. I came into the process a little bit late. It already had been decided that the city was going to try to piggyback on FIND dredging the intercoastal waterway after they do Dania. Dania, it looks like, is going to start sometime next month, actually, according to FIND. And it's about a 1-year project, and then there'll be a few months of transitioning between the dredging of Dania and then coming up the intercoastal waterway towards Sunrise. It did take FIND 5 years to get the permits. A lot of folks that are following this have looked at the width of the channel in the dredge plan coming up towards Bahia Mar and up towards Las Olas and the Swimming Hall of Fame. And there's some criticism about how narrow it is and things like that. And the reason that is that way is because FIND avoided seagrass. And by doing that, they saved quite a bit of money, and also a lot of the difficulties that they have in Broward County. Broward County mandates that in our permitting process to connect Bahia Mar and Las Olas and the Swimming Hall of Fame to the channel that's going to be dug to 17 feet, the county is asking us to keep mitigation in county of 60%. Well, the difficulty that we're finding is that there's not an abundance of sites to be able to mitigate. There's two types of mitigation. There's in-kind and out-of-kind. In-kind is if I have paddle grass, and I have an acre of paddle grass that is 25% what they call moderate growth, then at $200,000 an acre, I have to put 1 acre back in and pay $200,000. So that would, if I took paddle grass and moved it from site A to site B, though there's difficulty with that because there's not a lot of sites. So as you go, you have what they call out of kind, which could be mangrove restoration. And as that goes, that the ratio goes from 1 to 1 for in-kind to 1.5 to 1 or more. So that $200,000 per acre increases by that multiplier. So, and then the amount of seagrass that you have in a certain area also drives the cost of this going up. So the areas that we're looking to dredge and to connect to the channel happen to be in some places like Augusta National at the Masters with Seagrass. So it's getting a little bit pricey. Now, one of the things that's going on up in Tallahassee is these things called mitigation banks, where people basically prepay for mitigation that can happen in other areas of the state. So that because Fort Lauderdale is sparse in places to mitigate, we could still mitigate out of county or anywhere around in the state. So that's kind of where we're at now, and where we are in the process is we have just now, we're identifying sites. We're waiting to get our sites named that are in the county. We had at the last Marine Advisory Board meeting, our engineer consultant came and told us where some of the sites were. Some of them were like off Lauderdale Yacht Club, where we would plant seagrass there and things like that. So that's where we are. We're just kind of running out of things to do to try to keep the costs down. The dredging project is estimated about $4.5 million, and if you put right now the low end estimate of mitigation is a little over 2.2 million if it's all in kind at 1-to-1. So now we're already talking about a 50% increase in the cost of connecting Bahia Mar and all of the other sites along the Intercoastal Waterway to this 17-foot channel that'll be dug in a couple of years. The other thing is, what did you want me to say about the Marina?
No, he didn't.
Oh, okay. All right, and that's that. So if anybody has any questions, please ask.